A goal, Chris Billy, Huddersfield Town. The most famous goal of Chris Billy's life.
Is this the moment for Lee Fowler? It is. Take your place in Division 2, Huddersfield Town.
Ruby and Steve Simonson's boots now. He's missed. Steve Simonson clears the frame of the goal and collapses in a heap of tears. Huddersfield Town are promoted.
Mustafa Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
Hello and welcome to the Andy Takes That Chance preview show, The Drive-In. It's Matt and Killer here to guide you through all you need to know for the Terriers game against Peterborough on Saturday. Killer, the last time we played Peterborough, the show that we did was the warm-up, so we didn't do the history thing. So, can you tell me what you know about Peterborough United?
Just that I hate them irrationally, Matt. I don't know if it's from 92, 93. I don't know if it's from playoff final in I don't really want to even talk about that too much. I just hate them. I really don't like Peterborough. And I feel like this entire episode will be based upon my hatred for them, unfortunately, Matt. So history-wise, not much, just that I don't like them and I haven't for a long time.
Well, let me stir up some feelings, my good man, because, Killer, Peterborough were formed rather later than most clubs in 1934 at the Angel Hotel to replace the now defunct Peterborough and Fletton United Club. Peterborough initially entered the Midland League and their entry fee was paid for by a loan from Grantham Town. It wasn't until 1960 when Peterborough entered the Football League and they made a splash. They won the 4th Division straight away. Some dodgy financial irregularities later saw them relegated back to Division 4 in 1968, and it wasn't until 1974 when they'd returned. Peterborough remained a Division 4 to 3 back and forth yo-yo club until 1992, when they won the 3rd Division playoffs, beating a very crestfallen Huddersfield Town over 2 legs to get to Wembley. Peterborough lasted 2 seasons before they were promoted again back to the Championship. They lasted 2 seasons in the second tier before they were promoted again back in 2011. Once again, beating Huddersfield Town in the playoffs. Promotion was achieved a 3rd time to the Championship in 2021. So some famous ex-players, Killer, include Ivan Toney, George Boyd, Craig McHale-Smith, Dwight Gale, Lee Tomlin, David Seaman, Jimmy Bullard, Britt Assombalonga, Derek Dugan, Simon Davies, Matthew Etherington, Adi Boothroyd, and vanquisher of Huddersfield Town in 92, Ken Charlery. Peterborough have played at London Road since their very beginnings in 1934, and players that played for both Town and Peterborough include Nick Belokovic, Reese Brown, Adam Clayton, Romany Critchlow-Noble, or just Critchlow these days, Kyle Dempsey, Liam Dickinson, James Hand, Steve Jenkins, Fola Onibuje. Always nice to see a shout out for Fola. Christian Pearce, Alex Pritchard, Paul Rahubka, Jed Steer, Joe Taylor, and Harry Toffolo. Head-to-head, the clubs have met on only 29 occasions. It feels like a lot more, Killer. With honestly, there's several memorable ones. Town have won 12, 7 draws and 10 wins for Peterborough. The first meeting was in 1957, with Town winning the FA Cup, 3-1. The clubs met in the league for the first time in 1974, with Peterborough doing the double over Huddersfield that season. And then Peterborough wins have always tended to be sort of few and far between, but incredibly hurtful when they do occur. So, for example, we mentioned 1992, and we'll stop doing that very, very soon. The second leg of the playoffs at Leeds Road. 1994 was called Black Thursday. Peterborough came and they beat us 2-1 at our place in the 94-95 season. Sorry, they came and beat us that season. And they were doing the silly little barn dance around when they'd scored. If you remember that from the New Beginning video, that win by Peterborough actually stopped us or helped stop us win the league that year, and it allowed Birmingham to sort of pull away, and Town just kind of fell off after that point, but did go up through the playoffs. 2011, the playoff final at Old Trafford, and then that's it for hurtful ones. I mean, we got one back over them, didn't we, by sitting down against Barnsley for 5 minutes to relegate them, which is the ultimate in shithouser, isn't it? Town are unbeaten in the last 4 against Peterborough, having not lost since 2012. The last time Peterborough won in Huddersfield was in 2003, when Mick Wadsworth, I think, was manager back then. Recent form. Killer, tell us how Peterborough have been getting on recently.
Delightfully for me, they've been absolutely awful. They have been horrendous this season, Peterborough. And nobody really expected it. I don't think they expected them to fly too high this year. Obviously, there was some decent teams that have come down and come up into League One, as we know, and we've been over before with Wrexham and Stockport and whatnot, and us and Birmingham, obviously. But people expected Peterborough, as usual, to find some gems from somewhere, score a few goals and push on upwards. Just not happened for them. They started okay, obviously not against us in the first game, but after that, their away form, they won a couple of games in a row. They won, I think, at Crawley. I can't remember if it is that one, but then they won at Exeter on the 24th of August. So the first 2 away games in the league they did really well at. They've not won away from home since then. That's how bad their away form has been in the league. They over the last 15 games have dropped off even further. In the first, up until that point, or up until now, the points per game is 1 point per game, which is not great when you're fighting relegation. But over the last 15 games, it's dropped down to 0.7 points per game, which is bona fide relegation form. They're a very strange team, though, Matt. They've made the second most passes in the division. And now, obviously, let's skipping ahead a little bit to the tactics ball. We saw that in the first game against them, where we kept pressing really high and nicking the ball off them. They've persisted with this passing football, and it's just not worked out for them. They're overplaying into the box. They've got the fewest goals scored from outside the box, even though they're one of the league's highest scorers, defensively suspect. Most of the fans kind of look at them now expecting relegation, looking at a 23rd place finish, considering teams around them. Like, obviously, we were at Shrewsbury on Tuesday night, and they don't look too bad. And other teams like Burton are on a bit of a solid run all of a sudden. And Peterborough just don't seem to be able to buy a win whatsoever. Their away form over the last 10 games is the worst in the division. They've taken 2 points. So they've lost 8, drawn 2 out of the last 10 away games. Whereas Town's home form over the same time, something that we think has been really, really poor over the same period, the 10 games, we're in 11th. And now, yeah, that's skewed by a few positive wins in those first 4 games of the 10. But still, it's on paper, Peterborough coming to us, looking at their form compared to ours, even with it being so shoddy as it has been at home, we couldn't ask for a poorer team to come to our home on Saturday.
Sounds like it's set up for Charity FC, doesn't it, to give their latest bout of generosity. Right, mate. So I caught up with a Peterborough fan earlier, and it's Max from a very good Peterborough podcast called Up The Poshcast. And me and Max had a chat about how things have been going at Peterborough since we last met back in August. Hi, Max. Thank you very much for agreeing to do this. So it was the first game of the season the last time the two teams met. So just tell us how Peterborough have been doing since then.
Well, since we played you, the season wasn't going terribly. But we lost a lot of key players to injury, such as Jadel Katongo and Kwame Poku, and our season's now derailed. Our players are completely struck for confidence, and we are currently sat, I think, 3 points above the relegation zone. So it's been a tough season, a really difficult season. There's a real threat of us going down.
You're currently just 1 place above relegation at the minute. Is Darren Ferguson under any sort of pressure?
Yeah, look, I mean, Darren Ferguson's an extremely loyal servant to the club. It's his 4th stint here. He's brought success in all 3 of his last stints. Well, 4 of his last stints, actually, because we won the Bristol Street Motors Trophy last season. But I think it's divided the fan base quite a lot. Obviously, him being such a loyal servant, it's a very difficult topic, but I don't think any other manager survives a run like this without a change, especially in a relegation fight. And I think the fan base is very split between him getting the sack or him walking and him staying. But our owner, would never sack Darren Ferguson. So I don't think he's under any pressure in that sort of regard.
The sale of Nick Bilakovic caused some unrest in Huddersfield when he went down the A1 to Peterborough. So how's he getting on? Because we saw him as a really talented up-and-coming goalkeeper. We've noticed a few mistakes here and there and a couple of man of the matches. So how, to a Peterborough fan, how is he getting along? And do you think he's going to reach the potential that we maybe thought he would a couple of years ago?
Bilakovic is a really interesting subject because when he first came in, he was racing for the Golden Glove in that season we had last year. And bearing in mind, we had an excellent defence in front of him, but, he was probably regarded as one of the better keepers in the league. And then he got injured and Jed came in, and then he came back and his performances were never the same. He had that really bad game at Wickham where we lost 5-2 and a lot of the goals that went in were his fault. And it was difficult because I never think he's regained that confidence. And this season, we've got a really big problem with conceding goals. I think all of the defence has been to blame, but Bilakovic has played about the same games as Jed, maybe a couple more. And I think he's probably the best goalkeeper at the club at the moment. But I don't think that's very difficult to do in terms of, how much of a challenge it is to get good goalkeepers in at the moment.
As well as Bilakovic, you've got quite a number of young prospects. Who do you think are the most likely out of them all to kick on and go and have careers in a higher division?
Well, if you'd asked me this last year, I probably would have just told you our whole squad, because our squad was 20 times better than what our squad is now. But if you want one player, young, 23, it's got to be Kwame Poku. He was the league's top goal scorer until he got injured. He really took that, main man role by the scruff of the neck when Efren Mason-Clark left. And it's been really disappointing to have him out. And I really, really did hope that he'd be available for the end of February. I think we're going to see him in March again. But he's going to be vital to us staying up. Manny Fernandez, look, he hasn't been the greatest player this season. And there's been elements of inconsistency, but he's still very young. Norwich came in with a lot of money for him over January, we think, anyway. It was Norwich, and I do think he'll have a career in the Championship and, maybe even the Premier League, but we'll have to wait and see on him because I think he is very touch and go.
Right, Max, tell us, how are you likely to line up? Who are the key players in the lineup? What system you're likely to play? And give us a score prediction as well.
Well, funny you say that, because I think we probably would have lined up in the 5, but the player I just said might have a career in the top flight is currently on a red card. So I don't think he'll be playing. I don't know whether it is a 1-match or a 3-match ban, if I'm honest. So there might be an element of us that lines up in a 5, depending on if it was a 1-match. But I think the more likely would be a back 4. Look, that's our system. It's sort of like Darren Ferguson's way of playing football. Is the 4-2-3-1. I think we'll play the 4-2-4. We've got a bit of a problem up front. We don't really have a striker that can play on their own. We have to really play with 2 strikers to get the best out of this squad. So it will be a 4-2-4, and that will allow sort of one of our strikers to play the hold-up role, one of the other strikers to run in behind, and in the end it becomes that 4-2-3-1 with the hold-up striker dropping slightly deeper into that sort of like number 10 or like false 9 sort of role, and allows our wingers to bomb on and get at your fullbacks. Kean Hayes would be my player to watch if he plays. Dan Ferguson has a thing with Abraham Oddo that I don't personally agree with, but I'm not a football manager, so my opinion on that is probably irrelevant. But I think Kean Hayes is the far better suited option, and he looked electric against Stevenage despite only drawing 1-1. And he really likes to get out of fullback, which is what I really love about him. Score prediction. Now, if you want my blind optimism, I'm going to go with a 2-1 Posh win. But if I'm going to be totally honest, I think you'll probably beat us 3-0. So I've given you 2. The more likely of the 2, I think, is a 3-0 loss. But at the end of the day, when you're in this position, like, what can you do other than have sort of like blind optimism? Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I hope you enjoy the game.
Killer. it's time. Here we go with the tactics pod. So thanks to Max from Up The Poshcast. Two very varying score predictions there, but we're going to have a look at the teams and the possible lineup now and work out how the game may go. Killer, we'll go Peterborough first because we think that might be easier to line up than Huddersfield Town. So Peterborough at the minute have been playing a 4-2-3-1 system over the last couple of games. And Max has mentioned that they might go 4-2-4. That the idea behind that basically is that they don't have players, like you mentioned, they don't have players who can play up front by themselves. However, just looking at it logically, is Huddersfield away the fixture whereby you would change system to go with two up top as a manager? I'm not sure. I mean, it probably is in some senses because our home form's not been great at all, and we've not scored this year, have we, at home? However, logically, you wouldn't thought so. So I think they might stick with the 4-2-3-1. In goal, Jed Steer at the minute seems to be having the nod over Bilokovic. I've got a mate who absolutely hates Jed Steer, hated him when he played for us, and still hates him every time he sees him. I'd hate for him to meet him in the street. The fullback, so they've changed fullback a little bit since the start of the season. Carl Johnston, Northern Irish player, has been playing at right back over the last couple of games. The left back has been, again, another change from the start of the season. It's Teo Eden. So he's only played 7 games so far for Peterborough. Like you mentioned, Fernandez has been playing. He's quite a decent player when his head's in it, but he's one of the ones that you mentioned earlier that overplays out from the back as well, which is obviously an instruction. But they've had Oscar Warlin at centre-back, Swedish centre-back, and he's been playing alongside Sam Hughes, who is a former Leicester defender. So quite a relatively newish sort of team, if you like, because a lot of these players have only played a handful of games at the back, so you can probably see why they've been having a couple of issues at Peterborough. Midfield, Cipriano is a player who's been playing most of this season. Hector Cipriano, he's not a bad player in midfield. And then the man who's been playing next to him has been Archie Collins, who, again, he's a player who's been there a little while. He's come from previously played for Exeter. Not the most exciting, I guess. Not that they're most exciting players that they've got. They've got Danae O'Brien Brady, who they've got from our B team, who's been appearing on the bench there as well. But where they tend to be a bit more exciting, Peterborough, is in the forward areas. So Ricky J. Jones is the man who will play in that sort of central striking role. And he's a player I like, because he's got pace, he's got strength, and he can get sort of through the lines quite well. And he's a player I wanted us to have a look at in the January transfer window, as he's more of a facilitator if you play 2 up front, and he can run the channels and cause a little bit of havoc, if you like, in a defence for someone like Joe Taylor or Dion Charles to do what they do and drift in, because defenders get attracted to him because he's over 6 foot, he's quick, he's strong, and he allows others to happen. But when he was linked away in the January window, mate, he was been linked to like Sheffield United and stuff, so obviously I was aiming a little bit too high on that one. The wide players are interesting. Like you mentioned, Odo's been playing on the far right hand side. He's not done a massive amount this season. Cian Hayes came on against Stevenage and scored, so if you follow Michael Duff's mantra, someone who comes on and rescues a point usually starts the next game, don't they? So maybe Cian Hayes will play instead of Odo on the right-hand side. And then on the left, Malik Mothersmilk, as we call him, or Malik Mothersill. He's a young player who's a former Chelsea youngster. Had a bit of a decent reputation a couple of years ago in youth football as a goal scorer. He's been playing, coming in off the left-hand side. He's got 8 goals this season, which isn't bad, is it, really? So he tends to come in and sort of drift or invert and drift sort of inside to support J. Jones a little bit more. And then Ricky J. Jones will play up front. And again, another young player. He's got 8 goals as well this season, 22 years of age. I think he's got England under 21 caps or England youth caps anyway, certainly. So he's a decent a decent enough player is Ricky J. Jones. That's, I think, how Peterborough will line up, mate. So Town is interesting. We've had the injuries, honestly. Had more news that Herbie Kane's going to be out for 2 months. It's getting to the stage now where you just don't want a press conference with Huddersfield Town anymore, do you? Because Herbie's going to be out for Herbie, like I know him, he's my mate. He's out for 2 months with PCL, which is a posterior cruciate ligament injury, which is not good. Basically, and if you watch the highlights against Barnsley, Killer, you can see, can't you, when we get the equaliser, he goes down afterwards and he's holding something and something's not quite right. That's going to be a huge miss for us. I know his form-wise, he's not been amazing, has he, last couple of games, but he was before Christmas. I thought it was great before Christmas. So I think we'll miss Herbie Kane. So Town's lineup. So Brodie Spencer's still missing. So Lee Nichols will play in goal. I don't think there's any questions over that at the minute. Left back, Josh Ruffles will continue, I think. I thought he made a rocky start against Shrewsbury with the balls sort of over the top. But I thought he recovered all right second half. I thought he was fairly good. I thought the Shrewsbury right wing back or the right full back was quite good on the day. But I thought Ruffles kind of got to grips with him second half. And you kind of understand that because he's not played a lot of football, has he? So he needs a little time to get back into the swing of things. Centre backs again pick themselves because they're the only ones who are fit in Tom Lees and Radinho Balca. And I mean, Radinho Balca, you're kind of thinking, oh, please don't get injured. Saturday, Tuesday. But he's holding up all right so far, apart from when Lee Nichols absolutely knocked him around
twice, didn't he? He just kept going for him like Nichols.
Mate.
He said, Balca must have said something to Nichols because Nichols was dead set on trying to knock Balca out for that second half on Tuesday night.
I know, it was amazing, wasn't it? Yeah, so Balca, and then right back again, it'll be Lasse Sorensen at right back. I thought Lasse Sorensen did really well. You were at the game, weren't you, at Shrewsbury? And I think you mentioned before we started recording that sometimes it looks a little bit different to when you're watching it on iFollow. On iFollow, I thought Sorensen did really well. There was a couple of occasions where he kind of did what Ollie Turton does and sort of wrapped around the back and covered and denied a couple of good goals, or not good goals, a couple of goals or possible goals for Shrewsbury, which was really important. And I think defensively, that's where people would knock him as a player, that he's not quite as instinctively as good defensively as, say, Ollie Turton, but it's his strength is in going forward. But that was great. And if he can do that as a fullback, then that's a huge plus for Huddersfield Town. Midfield is where it's going to be questionable. And do you know what? We've been playing this 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3 sort of shape. Do you know what, mate? I've got a feeling Duff's going to do it again. He's going to go back. He's going to go back to 5-0-5 again. And I think...
Why do you reckon
he's going to do it?
Where's this come from?
I think he's going to do it because it worked against Peterborough at their place, and they're going to play out from the back, so it'll allow them to press more and higher. So I think what he might do, and because Anthony Evans came off the bench and did well against Shrewsbury, I think what he might do is he might have David Kasumu as the one there. And what might be tempting for him to do is, because David Kasumu has not played this system with Wiles and Evans yet, and because of injury and all sorts of other things. But Kasumu closes the gaps far better than what Jonathan Hogg does, because he's got a lot more pace. You should have seen him at the junior blue and white signing thing today. He was the first out. It was lightning. Yeah. But he will be there, and he can close that gap more and push up a lot better. And Radinho Balca as well can kind of push out if needed a little bit as well. So I think it might be tempting for Duff to go back to this now, and he'll have Chirua on the left, Ben Wiles as that inside left, and then the striker I think is still going to be Callum Marshall. And then the right-hand side, will the right-hand side be Josh Koroma? That's the question, because the way he kind of plays it is he likes them to kind of come inside a bit, doesn't he? So I'm wondering whether he'll either play Chirua on the right, different, because Chirua's sort of right-footed, isn't he? And Josh Koroma on the left, or he'll play Josh Koroma getting close to Callum Marshall, or Josh Koroma through the middle and Callum Marshall coming in from the right. There's a couple of different ways he could do that. And then what he might have is Gareth Evans, not Gareth Evans. That brings back some PTSD. Anthony Evans Gareth Evans was the man from the left back that was in the Lumikari 2001-2 season. Sorry, not 2001. Yeah, 2001, 2002. Oh, they all blur, don't they, in the end? So, yeah, I think what will happen is potentially that's what he might go for. And it's on this right-hand side here where Sorensen will look to kind of bridge that gap here. So they'll be looking to try and get Sorensen down that right-hand side quite a lot. And then you've got Evans will do the underlap maybe on this side. And then you'll have, sorry, Evans is here, isn't he? So you get Evans doing the underlap, which will allow either Marshall or Koroma to kind of come in more like that shape, and Chirua will probably go in here. So you'll end up like that, if you like. Ben Wiles will come into there, and then Kasumu just on the halfway. So I think that's how they'll kind of line up. And then the back four can mould a little bit into a 3 in attack. So I imagine that's kind of how they'll do, because Balka can look at this huge gap here with his pace, can't he, to look for when Sorensen goes forward. Tom Lees is your solid one that you want in the middle to for any clearances and crosses. You don't really want him isolated one-on-one with Ricky J. Jones. You don't really want that. Whereas Balka can handle the speed. Physically, that's another thing, where the Balka's still working his way back to fitness, and physically he's probably not used to that as much, because in the Dutch game it's not, there isn't that much contact, is there? So I think that's how they might line up, mate. Any advances from you on this? I know it's probably not how you would want them to do it, but I just have this feeling that he might just try that again. And the reason why is because when Peterborough pass out from the back, you're going to end up with this kind of shape here, which will essentially designed to stop Peterborough from being able to get out quickly, and then Town to win the ball high up and sort of take it off the toes, and then play from the final third. So I imagine that's how Town will possibly look to sort of set up, and again it'll be about trying to stop them from playing out from the back. So you can see everyone's kind of picked up here, apart from the number 10, who I didn't cover before, did I? I put the 2 wingers in. Number 10, Chris Conclark is playing number 10. So he's a danger, Chris Conclark. Yeah, I remember at the start of the season, I think there's a lot of Huddersfield fans were sort of put out that Huddersfield didn't go and sign Chris Conclark. So playing in Manchester, in Altrincham at Manchester, and doing rather well, but Town decided not to go for him. But I think that's how they might look to do it, mate, this weekend. And I think it could be effective, to be honest. How about you? What do you think they'll do?
We battered them last time we played them, didn't we? So going with the same system that worked last time, when Peterborough still play the same way, regardless of what formation Peterborough go with, they're obsessed with passing it out from the back. So it doesn't really matter too much, because everyone kind of just runs around for those easy passes. Honestly, what Peterborough fans hate the way Peterborough play at the moment. They get bored by it. It's just pointless passing. And like you say, Matt, getting extra people up the field to press is probably a wise way to go. I'm a little bit different on setup, I think, to you, though, here, in that I think Anthony Evans has to start. I thought he was fantastic when he came on Tuesday night. He really changed that game. And to be fair, Dion Charles were good as well. I thought Ben Wiles, my mate Wiles, I thought he had a bit of an off day. And we've had such a long run of games, and we've got some more to come on Tuesday, but like back-to-back Tuesday, Saturday, that I think maybe this is the one where you could just take Wilesy out, Matt, and put Evans straight back in and leave Hogg for this week with Kasumu. If you want to go with the similar kind of setup that we've been going with recently. But I'm really interested in seeing how Lees and Balka deal with Ricky J. Jones, because John Marquise the other night had him all day long, and he's not the most physical kind of striker, but they really struggled with him. I'm convinced Tom Lees is really struggling with his sight when it comes to using with his mask. I just think he's taken him a bit longer to react to stuff, and I don't think he would have been like that or was like that prior to the having to wear the mask. Quickly on the Sorensen issue from the other night, Matt, he's just defensively not great, Sorensen, isn't it? Like, he's not. We know what he gives us going forward. Positionally off ball when the ball's on the other side of the field, I think he's a little bit lazy, and maybe not through choice. It's just his natural instinct. Is to just get forward. So he's kind of forward first, kind of a wing back. I feel like Jack Hunt was years and years and years ago. But for me, Matt, it's more or less the same side. I just wonder if Chuera, he looked tired as well towards the end of the game. And I think it's always nice to have an option to bring somebody on with a bit of pace if you need it later on. So I do wonder if Charles could start down the middle and Marshall out wide for Chuera, because obviously he's not played that much up until now. And we've got another big game Tuesday against Wigan. We've got the game, like this game after game after game that's really important now. So we're going to have to start managing minutes a little bit, I think. And Peterborough, of all the teams coming to our place this season, to John Smith's, I think they're the weakest. I think they're ripe for us to beat them. And this is the one where I'd probably look at minutes a little bit more. Remember, Peterborough play Wrexham on Wednesday night in the Virtue Trophy. It must be South Area final, I'm guessing, which is strange, isn't it? Because I think Wrexham used to play North with us, but with Bradford Birmingham the other day, it can't be like that anymore. So they might be targeting that as well, which is another thing to consider. They aren't going to do anything in the league other than survive if it all goes well, but they are into a semi-final there against the Wrexham side that aren't on fire at the moment, are they? They're a little bit off again. So I'm not entirely sure, Matt, but I just think that could be the option. There might be a few changes, but having watched Duff's presser today, it was nice to say no new injuries and that Lonvic's back in contention for minutes this weekend. So that's nice to hear. That's a positive from a press conference that we don't normally get. Normally it's someone else is injured for a bit longer, but that was a nice change today.
Okay, so what are you going to go for in terms of a score prediction?
Do you know what? I'm gonna go 3-1 Town. I think this is the moment, Matt. Like you said, not scoring at home this calendar year. I don't know if it was Steve Chicken. Somebody asked this to Ollie Turton today in the press conference, and he was like, I didn't even know that either. That's quite bad, isn't it? Not to. I think this is the time. Charity FC, it's past us, Matt. We've won 2 away games in a row. For now, I think we're on the up. And yes, Town have slapped us back into a real hard sense of reality many times this season already. I just think Peterborough really aren't very good and just ready for it. So I'll go 3-1 Town. Anthony Evans to score. Josh Karoma to get 2. I think Karoma's on that streak that you suggested he might be on, Matt. So I'm going 3-1 Town.
Yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah. So I think Town will win. I still think it'll be claggy. I think Town will make a slow start again. They've been very slow again. They're very slow against Shrewsbury as well. But I'm going to go for 2-0 for Town. I just think Peterborough are a little bit flat at the minute, and I just think that Town might get 2 goals up and just take the foot off a little bit, knowing that they've got Wigan on Tuesday. It would be smart, I think, to do that if we could get into that position without giving too many chances away at the other end, obviously, and ended up conceding. But I think we'll win the game. I don't think they're in particularly great form. As we've heard from Max. So I keep saying it, these are the games that teams who are serious about getting promoted just swat these teams aside if you're serious. And Town have Town still haven't proven this season that they are 100% serious about promotion. There's times where there's been little runs where you think they are, when we went to Cambridge, etc., Bolton. At home, I haven't seen a home performance this season which says to me this team are getting promoted. And we need to really pull one out at some point. I mean, if we get promoted playing dire football, winning 1-0, who cares? You know, at the end of the season, we'll all get pissed and party, whatever. But in the meantime, it doesn't look quite as great. But I think we'll win 2-0. I'm gonna go for goals from Karoma to say he's on the run, and I think Dion Charles is due, isn't he? He is due, but I might say I don't know him or Marshall. I'm struggling. Whoever starts, I think out of the two, I'll go with one of those two. And the reason I believe a lot in momentum in football, and Dion Charles played a huge part in the goal at Shrewsbury with a brilliant pass through to Evans. If you watch it back, it's a brilliant reverse pass, isn't it? That's the first real positive thing, I think, a positive contribution Dion Charles has made in a Huddersfield shirt. And I just wonder whether that'll just give him the nudge in the right direction to then now go to give him that confidence to sort of go on and get one. And it works like that in football sometimes, doesn't it? Where you do something and then all of a sudden things start to click into place. So I'll go Dion Charles. Why not? We'll go with a goal from Karoma and a goal from Dion Charles, and we'll go 2-0. Around the grounds. So Saturday is where the first League One games are, and there's 2 kickoffs at 12:30. There's Reading against Birmingham. You expect Birmingham to just continue their form. I mean, they made it hard work against Bradford, but they got there in the end, thankfully. I don't think anyone wanted Bradford City to go to Wembley, did they? Rotherham versus Barnsley. I think that's a good game, you know. If I wasn't taking Charlie swimming, I think I might sit and watch that. Because I think both teams are kind of struggling to get into the playoffs, and they're both like two drunks outside a bar out there throwing punches at the minute, if you like. So seen plenty of that. So outside the frontier in Batley, perfect place for that. So
it'll be a frothy one, that, Matt. The Barnsley Rotherham game, it'll be
yeah.
a frothy game. It'll be a good one to watch.
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll be quite good. Steve Evans doing his usual, and Darryl Clark can get a bit feisty if he wants as well from time to time. So it'll be interesting. Blackpool Crawley. Blackpool just don't quite click, do they? They don't quite. I think they might win that, but they're just not proving that they're serious about going to the top 6 yet. Bolton and Orient. This is how good are Orient? Since we went there and beat them, and they looked crap that day, didn't they? They did not look good at all. We went there and we won 2-0, didn't we? Hellick scored. Town should have won that game 4-5, easy. But ever since then, Richie Wellens has done an amazing job, and they go to Bolton, who have won 4 in 5. So this is the game of the day, really. They've won 4 in 5. Bolton under Schumacher made a terrible decision sacking Chris Markham. I think that's completely bizarre. However, they've now got Leyton Orient coming, and this is if Bolton are again, if Bolton are serious about getting promoted or getting into the playoffs, this is a game that they have to take something from. So I think this might be a draw, but it's going to be good. Cambridge Stockport, Charlton Exeter. Charlton got into the top 6 momentarily and have fallen back out. Lincoln, Burton, Northampton, Bristol Rovers, Shrewsbury and Stevenage, and Wickham and Wigan. I'm still kind of got half an eye on Wickham, but that feels like a winnable game for them. So for us, we need to win to keep up the pace, just in case they falter. Never give up, Killer. Never give up. There'll be people going, we're not getting brought to Peterborough, but just never give up. Never give up. Which ones stand out to you? And then on Sunday, we've got Mansfield versus Wrexham, and Wrexham are away and flagged a little bit over the last few games. So that's going to be interesting as well. So, but for me, it's the Bolton Leyton Orient one, which is the standout of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just the Wickham. The reason why we've got to chase Wickham down. I think it has gone. I don't think we can. I'll never give up. I'm John Cena and with you there, Matt. But with Wickham, when Wigan came to Huddersfield, they didn't even bother, did they? They barely put much of a performance in against us. They weren't great against us, and obviously they've lost Thelo Asgard, so they're even worse than they were before. It's just you get to that point in the season now, Matt, though, where it doesn't really matter who you face, because it's not just about your opposition now. It's the pressure you've got from elsewhere as well. It's the pressure you put on yourself, because you know there's only 15, 16 games left. Mistakes now are more costly than they were at the beginning of the season, because you don't have as long to rectify it if you make a mess. And I think Wickham now find themselves in a driving seat for second that they probably weren't ready for. They didn't expect. And leading from the front is right for some teams, but for others it's not. And I think you get into the point where you see, like you say, Matt, with Wrexham, they're just slipping a little bit, like you said they would. Although if they finish second now, Matt, I'll have to call you out for that later on in obviously the post-season review.
Well, just last few games.
But with Wickham, you kind of, are they real? Are they real, or are they pretenders? And I think as games go on, we're off going, they're real. They're real. No, but they're definitely real.
The other thing is, do they need to be? Because they're not really getting put under that much pressure by us, Wrexham. Stockport are the ones flying through at the minute. They've got Cambridge away. They're the ones in form at the minute and could potentially push them. But really, it's been there for Town, hasn't it? And that's frustrating. It's been there for us, and we've just had the injuries have killed us. That's the way, unfortunately. Right, mate. So we've got our predictions in. That's how the League One status looks. Hopefully, we'll have a win to talk about this coming Sunday. And on Friday, the 2nd of May, 2025, there's going to be an evening with Marcus Stewart and friends at the John Smith Stadium. You can book tickets for this by going to www.seeitnowgroup.co.uk or call in 01484 941 089. So it's going to be a fundraising dinner for Marcus Stewart, Terriers versus MND. A fundraising event where Marcus Stewart will be on stage and answering a couple of questions. He was my favourite player from years gone by, so I'm going to do my best to try and make that as well. So it should be a really good night. So check out www.seeitnowgroup.co.uk for tickets, and I'm sure they'll be selling very quickly. So Right, Killer, thank you very much, buddy. And we'll be back with the drive-in for next weekend.
There's a team that is dear to its followers. The colours are bright blue and white. They're a team of renown, and they're the pride of the town. And the game of football is their delight. And all the while upon the field of play, thousands loudly cheer them on the way. Often you can hear them say, who can beat the town today? And then the bells will ring so merrily, and every goal shall be a memory. So town, play up and bring that cup back to Huddersfield. So town, play up and bring the cup back to Huddersfield.